Hello, welcome to CET 4884. After addressing the software and hardware requirements to secure organizations' information, we need to address the importance of securing the organization assets physically. Having firewalls or IDPSs will not work if someone managed to physically be inside and was able to access the information internally. This session will address physical security considerations for selecting a facility site. We will also identify physical security monitoring components, and we will describe the components of fire detection and fire response. Physical security addresses design, implementation, and maintenance of countermeasures that protect the physical resources of an organization. As I stated, most of the technology-based controls discussed to this point can be avoided if an attacker gains physical access to the devices being controlled. So if you have a firewall or you have an IDPS, but somebody managed to get inside the company and get access from the inside, then that defeats the purpose of the firewall and the IDPS. So we need also, in addition to the technology, to these tools, to these methods, we need also physical security. Some computer systems are constructed in such a way that it's easy to steal the hard drive and the information it contains. As a result, physical security should receive as much attention as logical security in the security development life cycle. In some servers, what you see, the hard drive is hot swappable, so you can just pull the hard drive as is from the server and move. And that's for if you have a RAID server that's been set up in a RAID configuration. So you will have multiple hard drives, and you can just pull those hard drives while the computer is working, and no problem will happen. So with that being said, that's very important to protect physically, to protect these kind of servers or these kind of machines. There are 7 major sources of physical loss. Usually you will have like extreme temperature where you have heat in the area. If you have heat around the servers, or extreme cold, extreme heat, that will ruin the machines or the computers in that area. You might have gases, and those gases could be because of a war, or because of commercial vapors, or because of humidity or dry air, or because of the dust and suspended particles that's in the air that could actually affect the machines or the computers. We could have liquids like floods or floods of water, or maybe chemicals or chemical reactions that will affect those machines. We might have living organisms like viruses or bacteria or people, animals or insects. And of course, concentrate on the word people, because usually you will not have lots of viruses and bacteria that will affect those machines, but the people might affect the machines. Animals, you might have some rodents that might start eating the wires and ruin for you the wires or the network. Projectiles, tangible objects in motion, powered objects, where you might have a hurricane, and that hurricane will have, with the power and the speed of the wind, it might have projectiles that will shoot right inside the rooms or areas where computers are, and then destroy the network. Movement like any collapse or shearing for the building, or shaking or vibration because of the earthquake or liquefaction, the flaws of waves, the separation or mudslides or slides of earth, all that, also all these movements might affect the computer and the operations for the company. And then we have energy anomalies, which is electrical surges that might happen, or failures of power, or magnetism, strong magnetism in the area, or static electricity, maybe aging circuitry, the computers are old, some kind of radiation in the area, sound, light, radio, microwave, electromagnetic, or atomic energy. So all these kind of anomalies, energies, of course, it's the percentage of that happening is very slim, but still you need to make sure that your computers, your servers, the main source of information are being protected inside the company in an area where these things will not get to it that easy. Um, so who's responsible for physical security, and what are the different roles within the organization? We can identify three main roles in physical security. We have the general management, the IT management and professionals, and information security management and professionals. For the general management, they are responsible for the security of the facility in which the organization is housed, and the policies and standards for secure operation is being established. The IT management and professionals responsible for environmental and access security in technology, equipment, locations, and for the policies and standards of securing equipment operations. For information security management and professionals, they perform risk assessment and implementation reviews for the physical security controls implemented by the other two groups. Before examining access controls, we need to understand the concepts the concept of securing facility and its design. From the point of view of facilities management, a secure facility is a physical location that has been engineered with controls designed to minimize the risk of attacks from physical threats. A secure facility can use the natural terrain, traffic flow, and urban development, and can complement these features with protection mechanisms such as a fence, gates, walls, guards, and alarms. So you can build the facility like on top of a hill, and it will have like maybe natural terrains around it where no one can get to that facility except through a main gate or main path. And with that, you will have fences everywhere. You will have a gate on that path. You will have walls, and you will have a guard, and you will have alarms. So you can utilize that the feature of the nature for building your facility on that area, and you make sure that it's being protected. There are a number of physical security controls and issues that the organization's communities of interest should consider. And again, when you start designing the physical security, you start looking at the facility. Where can I build that facility? And if I can build it in an area where it's in a high excluded area, no one can get to that. I'm assuming that the flood will not get to it. There is no earthquake in that area. Hurricanes are very slim. No hurricanes, no tornadoes in that area. Then I will look at also the nature around it. If there are like water, like rivers or anything that will border this facility where no one can access it, and then I will add fences, I will add walls, and I will have certain gates or special gates with guards on those gates. So for the guards will apply the human reasoning where they start, asking where are you going and what's your ID, and based on these questions, they will allow you to get in as a visitor or not. If you are working there, even if you are working now, remember with the change of guards, they will not remember all the faces in the company, especially if you are talking about big, huge companies. So in most cases, they have to ask you for an ID to be able to pass through the gate. There are also dogs that can be provided, and with their keen sense of smell and hearing, and to be placed in harm's way in lieu of humans, we can use dogs to protect the facility. And then we have the ID cards and badges that's been used by many companies, and then they have to again scan the ID card, make sure that the person is the one who's saying he is. And with those ID cards, actually they have to scan it in front of locks and keys specialized for the ID card, so you will not be able to enter until you scan that card. And then we have the man traps that we can put around the server and in the server area where no one can get to the server room. And then we have electronic monitoring. With the electronic monitoring, we have now lots of options with sensors and cameras and alarms and many things that we can use that will be connected together and will be monitored to make sure that no one can get into the specific areas or the important assets area. And then we have the alarm and alarm systems that can be added to the electronic monitoring. And we have computer rooms that will be again excluded, or that will be protected in a way that no one can get to these areas unless they work as IT professionals or they work on those areas. And then we have the walls and the doors, and the walls in the interior walls for these areas will be thicker and very hard to penetrate, not drywall and not something that's easy to break in. And the doors will be also thick and very hard and will be fire resistance. One area of access control that ties physical security with information access control is the use of identification cards, the ID and name badges. An ID card is typically worn concealed, whereas a name badge is visible, so people will know that you work in the company. These devices are forms of biometrics, facial recognition to identify and authenticate and authorize individuals with access to the facility. With the addition of a magnetic strip or a radio chip, the ID card can provide access control. And as I said, you can just scan it in front of the reader, the card reader, and the door will open to you. Or you can use facial recognition, or you can use the fingerprint just to have access to the different areas. So a name badge or ID should not be the only control for access to restricted areas, as they can be easily duplicated, stolen, and modified. In addition, tailgating occurs when an authorized individual presents a key and door is open, so you are authorized and you have the ID card and you can just scan it and go in, and then all of a sudden someone will be following you, say that I forgot my ID or I don't have my ID, and they will tailgate you and they will not be authorized to get into the building. So you have to be careful when you unlock the door, and if there is anyone else, even if you know that they work in the company, you have to walk through and let them use their ID to get through it, through the door. If they need to go through the door and they don't have an ID, then the security officers, they will come and they will do the proper action for them to get them through the gate. in the high risk areas in many companies. Actually, they will tell you you have to go home and bring your ID back, and you will not be allowed in until you do that and verify your ID. Again, you have to be careful of tailgating and people that will follow you just because you have the key to some of the doors in these restricted areas. There are two types of locks. We have the mechanical locks and we have the electromechanical locks. The mechanical lock relies on a key of carefully shaped pieces of metal that turn tumblers to release secure loops of steel or aluminum or brass and brass padlocks. The electromechanical lock can accept a variety of inputs, including keys that are magnetic strips on ID cards, radio signals from name badges, or pins typed into a keypad. So whether you use the pin number or you use the name badge, or you use the strips on the ID card, you can just slide the card and you can get into the area. Locks are divided into four categories. They have the manual, they have the programmable, they have the electronic, they have the biometric. As part of the general management's responsibility for the physical environment, the management of keys and locks is a fundamental concern. Sometimes locks fail and facilities need alternative procedures for access. Locks fail in one of two ways. When the lock of the door fails and the door becomes unlocked and then you cannot lock it, that's a fail-safe lock. And when the lock of a door fails and the door remains locked, and this is a fail-secure lock. So, if it's a fail-safe lock, it's a problem because it becomes unlocked and anyone can get through that door because the locking mechanism is not working anymore. At the same time, if it's locked and it remains locked, then you cannot get inside to do your job or your work or your maintenance, and that will be another problem that they need to deal with. So whether it's safe or secure, still in both cases it's a failure and it has to be addressed immediately. This is an example of some of the locks that exist with the keypad where you just put the numbers, and some of them has numbers and a key, and some of them will have a number and maybe biometric like thumb or any other scanning capabilities. A man trap is a small enclosure that has an entry point and a different exit point. The individual entering the facility area or room enters the man trap, requests access through some form of electronic or biometric lock and key, and if verified is allowed to exit the man trap into the facility or the restricted area or the area that they need to go to. And this is called a man trap because if the individual is denied entry, the man trap does not allow them to exit until security officials or the officer comes or overrides the automatic locks of the enclosure, and then they will have that person in custody because they got into areas that they shouldn't be in. And this is how the man trap works. You have the hallway, and once they get inside this door, they will not be able to go outside because they have an inner lock. This is an outer lock, so there is no way that you can get out unless you have a key for the facility or for the different doors. And if you got stuck here, that means you are not authorized to be here, and the officers will come and pick you up from here. The electronic monitoring or part of the physical control is the electronic monitoring, which is used to record events within a specific area or areas where other types of physical controls are not practical. So you can use again, cameras on top of the building, maybe on the fence, or in other areas where no one can be able to be there or available all the time. So monitoring frequently uses cameras viewing individuals, while on other end of these cameras are video cassettes or cassette recorder, and that's the cassette recorder was long time ago. Now you have the digital recording, and it can be saved on terabyte hard drives, and it can be before you had to override or you have to delete. Now you can record hundreds and hundreds of days of recording without any problems, but usually they will do it like on either monthly basis or every 3 months quarter basis, where they can delete and record over that. These systems have drawbacks, as for the most part they are reactive and do not prevent access or prohibit activity. We can see the people, but we cannot do anything about it. So recorded monitoring requires an individual to review the information collected. After that, if something happened at night and no one at night in the company, and somebody or an intruder came in, then as we said, it does not prevent that control does not prevent that person. The camera will not prevent them from coming in, but we can later on go back through the recording and identify the person who did enter and stole the information from the company. Alarm systems notify appropriate individuals when a predetermined event or activity occurs. So we will have those alarms where it can have, or it will have the ability to detect an intruder and then send an email or a text, or send some sort of an alarm for the proper persons to respond to those intruders. In addition, we might have fire. So this could be a fire or a break-in or intrusion, or environmental disturbance like earthquake or a flood or a hurricane, or loss of power. Whatever the alarm is, it will be sent to the administrators, and then they will be notified of what's going on. The burglar alarm system detects intrusions into unauthorized areas and notify either a local or remote security agency to react. And you will have an agreement with the police department to react if in case something happens. So those kind of alarm systems will be directly connected to the police department, and they will react immediately. You don't need to have security personnel responding to that. These systems rely on a number of sensors that detect the intrusion: motion detectors, thermal detectors, glass breakage detectors, weight sensors, and contact sensors. And currently, or in some cases, they will have like CO2, which is the breathing sensors from humans, so they will know that the CO2 is increasing, which means that somebody is breathing in that room or that area. So now they are trying to add as many sensors as possible, as many detectors as possible, to identify the intruders and inform the proper authority. Computer rooms and wiring and communications closets are facilities that require special attention to ensure the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of information. Logical access controls are easily defeated if an attacker gains physical access to the computing equipment, and if they are inside the building, if they are inside the facility and they have a flash drive and they plug in the flash drive, then that's it. Already they took the information and everything will be sent directly to some sort of an outer server where they collect the information. They steal all the information from the company. So again, the physical access is very important. You don't need to have anyone that's not authorized inside that building. One of the scary things is that, you know, sometimes you will have a contractor or somebody who works with the company that might be either naive, and somebody will tell him from the outside, you know, I'll give you this amount of money just to plug in this flash drive in one of the machines, and they will do it. Or in some cases, they will do it just because they like to sabotage the company. And some of those staff are the custodial staff, which are often the least scrutinized of employees, and non-employee who have access to offices. So those people, you know, if you are if you have access to these offices and you can just plug something into the computer, then that will be scary. Yet custodians are given the greatest degree of unsupervised access, where they can get into many offices, many rooms without any supervision. So it should be actually monitored, or they should not have access to certain rooms where it's very critical to get into these rooms. And again, you know, any computer on the network, if you have a flash drive and you plug in a flash drive, that will be scary because they can access the information that they need using those flash drives and keystroke capturing. The security of information assets can sometimes be compromised because of the construction of the walls and doors of the facility. The walls in a facility are typically standard interior or firewall. All high security areas such as computer rooms and wiring closets must have firewall grade walls, so it's not the normal drywall surrounding those equipments or those devices. This provides not only physical security from potential intruders, but from fires, as well as, you know, other disasters, natural disasters. The doors that allow access into these types of secured rooms should also be evaluated and should be fire resistance doors. Computer rooms and wiring closets can have push or crash bars installed. Such devices meet building codes, but provide much higher levels of security than the standard door pull handle. So that will be all for this session. We'll continue talking about physical security in the next session. If you have any questions, please let me know. Have a great day.